Welcome into the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Ah, yes, the Old English D's been looking pretty good this week, and the man wearing it, Justin Verlander, on the mound today as the Tigers look to start 5-0. My name's Brad Galley, joined alongside Dave Burkett and John Neo. Busy week inside this city. The Lions are getting kicked off. Killer, our coordinator over here, goes, "Are you talking about the Lions already?"
We're always talking about
Never
the
ends,
Lions.
does it?
Yeah.
That's right, baby. Officially kicking off because the offseason program gives them an advantage with a new coach. But a very exciting time, unfortunately not including the local teams in the Final Four. But let's start with the team that is 4-0 for the third time in recent memory. And the Tigers are the last undefeated team in baseball. The last two times they went 4-0, guys, they went to the World Series. So done deal.
So it's over, right?
Yep, they're good.
Yeah,
We can
right.
just kick
Yeah,
back
there you
and
go.
just watch
Right.
because
Yeah.
we're going to watch a World Series here. Your biggest impressions from this team so far? The bullpen, some issues yesterday, but
Some issues, you think?
a little bit.
Twice, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
Biggest
on the
takeaway
line.
from the first week.
What's not to like so far? I mean, I think
The bullpen.
Yeah, aside from, you're right. Joe Nathan obviously blew the one save. Even yesterday, didn't look great early on. But look, I think you look across the board at the lineup. Austin Jackson is hitting. Nick Castellanos has played well. Cabrera is Cabrera. He's great as always. Look, this team is going to be in it for the long haul. They do need to make sure they solve the back end of that bullpen, and they need to make sure the pitching stays healthy if they're going to go to the World Series and take advantage of this 4-0 start. But
Yeah.
I think everything's looking pretty good so
Well,
far.
I mean, to win 4 games the way that, without playing particularly well, frankly, that's a great start for them. But yeah, I think the problem is the same things we were worried about with this team coming into the season have already reared their ugly head. I mean, the bullpen, we knew with Rondon going down, we were going to have some issues at the back end of that bullpen. And gosh, Phil Coke comes out there and it's terrible again. And Nathan, I think, will probably be okay. Everybody says, well, his velocity is down, but it usually is at the start of the season. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's a pretty scary proposition, the bullpen. But it's the same things that are going to get him through. The starting pitching is great, and Porcello was great yesterday after rough first inning, which is nothing new. So yeah, I think that. But the bullpen, gosh,
They're going to have to make
they
some
can't do
moves.
that whole season like that again.
No, they're
like
going to
they
have to
did
make some
last
moves
year.
in July.
No, they will, and they'll change it. But what you just said, John, this is the same stuff that's gotten them through the whole time, and it's the big hitting, it's the big home runs. But it's a different lineup this year.
Right,
Prince is
right,
gone.
right.
Torrey Hunter isn't the same Torrey Hunter. He's a year older.
Yeah, I don't think we can count on 5 RBIs every day from
Not gonna
Torrey
happen.
Hunter. But
But
yeah,
it's
you're
been
right.
impressive to see
Right.
that even with this lineup, they have been able to count on some big RBIs from different people within the lineup, and I think that's going to continue because the way Nick Castellanos hits, you put that ball anywhere near the strike zone, and he's going to hit it, which is uplifting to see that you're not just counting on 3 guys.
And Austin Jackson, the new position, batting fifth. I don't know if it's going to be that way the whole year. He looks really good so far, and he's done that before too. But he looks comfortable hitting fifth.
He's hitting well, and let's not forget about Ian Kinsler. I know a lot. A lot of talk about that trade. During the offseason, Prince is hitting 200 right now. He's got 1 RBI. Who knows how he's going to be in Texas? But Kinsler's come up with a couple big hits his first week already. So.
Already had some base running gaffes in Texas as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
saw
no,
that
that's
the
true.
other
Yeah,
day.
he's already getting called out for that. But you know what? Speaking of base running gaffes, they are going to be more aggressive.
Yeah.
They said they were going to be. It's going to be ugly at times, though, when they are aggressive. That's just part of what it is. But the other thing is, defensively, I think we're still going to have. We have, when Iglesias went down, the patchwork they've got. Alex Gonzalez, another.
They need Iglesias back.
That bullpen really got hurt yesterday by the shortstop defense.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be an issue. And Stephen Drew's still out there. I don't think that's where they're going to go unless maybe it's June and he's still out there. But yeah, the same issues that we thought they had, they have. And yet they're 4-0.
And yet they are 4-0.
And they've beaten Kansas City already pushed aside, looks like Kansas City again, and so that's a good start for them, no doubt.
Let's talk about a finish.
No, I was just going to say,
go
speaking
ahead.
of Kansas City, I still would be a little bit wary of them. They're still the team to me that is going to challenge the Tigers. The White Sox have a good lineup.
They do.
I don't think their pitching is quite there yet. I don't know what the Indians are going to be at the end of the day. I think
Twins are
Kansas City
awful.
can push them at the end of the
All right, well, it's just the start there, and it's been a good start so far. But the Red Wings are making a strong push as the playoffs continue. It's been wild. It's been fun. Every night is must-see TV with this team. And last night they lose after dropping down 3-0 to Montreal. They climb back 3-3, lose 5-3. But some of the games this team has put together, it's been fantastic.
I need a blanket to hide right now because I was on here 2 weeks ago, and I think one of the questions in our Fast 5 Minutes was, are the Wings going to make the playoffs? And and not just me, Stoney too. I'm sorry to put you out there on blast like that.
I'll get you a blanket. Keep talking.
Right,
I got you a blanket.
But we both said the Wings were not going to make the playoffs, and now obviously
I was pretty skeptical too.
Yeah, they've played well, and everybody knows what Nyquist is doing.
There you go. Here's a nice white jersey.
A Lidstrom jersey. All right, I'll cover up in that.
They could use some bullpen help from a guy like Nick
gosh,
Lidstrom, though, because they are going to drive people crazy the way they finish games, defensively in particular.
Yeah.
And I still think that's going to cost them when it comes time to a first-round playoff series or whatever it may be. I mean, they're not in yet.
No.
So let's not put them in just yet, because I think everybody, when they beat Boston, everybody was, okay, well, they're in. Now they can get the 7th seed, which is, I do think, matters for them if they can avoid Boston in the first round. But they still got to get in.
Well, Boston and Pittsburgh. Look, I think the future for this team looks pretty bright. You see what the young guys are doing, and I think that's a real positive. And to keep the playoff streak alive, I think that would mean something for fans and for the organization.
Without a doubt.
But I still don't see a long playoff run because of Boston, because of Pittsburgh in the East. It's going to be a tough road for the Wings, assuming they do get in the playoffs.
I think here's why it does mean something to fans, because a couple weeks ago, I think you guys would, John, you would write about it.
Yeah.
We would talk about it. Does it matter? And you said it didn't, because they weren't going to make it. They weren't going to. No, but here's why it matters. I think.
Shame me. No, it's all right.
When you watch I will, no doubt, because you got it wrong, baby. When you watch the games and you watch the way they perform, it stirs this city in a way that hockey doesn't do in America.
Yeah.
And people come together on this team. That win against Boston was the lead topic in town everywhere. If you were talking with friends, talk radio, if you're reading, if you're tweeting, everyone talks about it.
I think even around here lately, because the Wings had so much success in the past, and maybe they started to be taken a little bit for granted. And then you look what happened this year when they were on kind of teetering between making the playoffs or not, and maybe people realized how much the Wings meant to
Yeah, and it started last year with that little run they put on at the end of the season, and then almost beating Chicago to get onto the conference finals. But I think what it is too, it's a new generation of players that fans can get excited about, and it's a new generation of fans too, but it's a new generation of players that they can get excited about. Nyquist and Tatar and all these guys, and it begs the question: why weren't those guys playing in the beginning of the season? We wouldn't maybe be in this situation where 3 points, 3 points, clear of not making the playoffs. But and Tatar, why wasn't he? In the that Chicago series, it might have helped having a guy who was going to go on and score however many goals he scored in the Calder Cup playoffs. But yeah, I think it's exciting because it's new and fresh for people. That's why. I
want to get into a lot about that, about Dan Cleary maybe being on this roster, Samuelsson, and the emergence of Gustav Nyquist as this stealthy scorer in the NHL. We're going to talk about that later because David Solano spent some time with him earlier this week. But that's later in the show. If you have tweets about the Red Wings, use the hashtag 7SportsCave. We could use them on TV. Get your Twitter name out there to all the people that are watching this show. So interact with us. Tell us what you're thinking about the team and also the Lions. If you have a bold prediction for the team, send it to us because we're going to make ours now.
That's right.
Dave, John, it's just starting this week. I guess because people don't know, bring them up to speed of what's going on this week because the Lions are starting along with 6 other teams with new coaches. What can we expect this week and what's your bold prediction for the team?
Yeah, well, this is the start of the offseason program, and because the Lions have a new coach, Jim Caldwell, along with every other team that has a new coach, they get to start their offseason program a little bit earlier. And really these first 2 weeks, it's nothing but conditioning. But they do have a voluntary mini camp in a couple weeks, and that's the big one where the coaches will get hands-on with the guys for the first time. So I think, to me, the 2 things that I'm going to be watching really closely are the development of some of the young guys. Darius Slay in particular, he's a guy that I think the Lions are going to be counting on big time this year, so they need to make sure that he's made some strides. And Nick Fairley, his weight, we've seen what Martin Mayhew said about him the other week, and the Lions are not going to tender him. They're not going to pick up that 5th-year option on him. I think he needs to come in and he needs to prove that he can be a player, the player that they think he is. And even then, if he does that, I still don't know if that's enough for them to pick up that or to try to extend him afterwards.
I know it's early, and John, I still want you to weigh in, but you wrote today about Darius Slay and those guys in the Free Press.
I did.
I'll put you on the spot. Is Darius Slay going to be the #1 starting quarterback for this team in the fall?
Yeah, I think so. At the end of the year, look, to me right now, Chris Houston, Darius Slay are the 2 cornerbacks that are their top 2 cornerbacks. I'm not sure that Chris Houston can bounce back. I think the Lions will still add to that position, whether it's through the draft or Rasheem Mathis or somebody. Darius Slay at the end of the season, I think he's going to be the Lions' #1 cornerback.
Ooh, lay it down.
I agree. I agree, and I think I know they have high hopes for him still. He came in injured last year, and that sort of altered the perception of him, I think, right from the get-go. But yeah, to me, I mean, yes, Fairley. I mean, what does Nick Fairley weigh in at? How does he look when he comes in? I mean, as silly as that sounds, that's true. And then can he stay that way throughout the entire offseason and into the season? He's on a prove-it year, and I like Dave. I don't think he's necessarily coming back after this season.
Why would you? If you have these questions about him right now, and you need to motivate him with money,
and
why
he's got
would
a
you
shoulder issue that's going to kind of always plague his career, I think. But to me, the whole offseason has been about who? Matthew Stafford. That's what I think, and so the interaction you see with him, the new coaching staff, I think that to me is still the biggest story we're going to look at early on. I agree, though. You get that mini camp, that extra mini camp. That's a chance for them to see these young guys. Okay, can we really trust this guy? Do we need to go find something else? That's big for them. That's the biggest part about being bad enough to get an extra couple of weeks of off season, which is what they've been.
Right.
A few too many
you got to take advantage of it.
But you take advantage of it, and it comes before the draft. It's set up to help them. But to me, it's about Matthew Stafford and how does he fit with this new staff?
That point right there, Caldwell. These guys, they get to see what they have before the draft. That's going to weigh big in some of those late round decisions, whether they need to take a quarterback, whether they need to supplement, some of those positions. They get to get hands on with these guys.
So. So we're just going to start our conversation there with the Lions. We're going to now tee it up and let you hit it away. Use the hashtag 7SportsCave. Interact with us. Your tweets, we're checking them right now. We're going to put them on TV after the break. And when we get back, Jeremy Johnson, our man on the street, goes out to find how people get ready for the big game. That's right, the NCAA title game tomorrow. How do you like your food? This is the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Calvin Johnson's the man. No questions about him. No predictions about him other than how out of this world will he be. This is the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Brad Galley, Dave Burkett, John Neo. We're taking your bold predictions about the Lions this season, this offseason that officially begins tomorrow. And our man monitoring everything, Mike Foss in the control room, checking out what people are tweeting. Mike, hello, and good Sunday morning to you, my friend.
Good morning to you guys. And, of course, whenever we're talking Lions, the social media, always a buzz with chatter. And you know what? I'm going to throw out a bold prediction of my own for the Lions this season. Lions playing in Arizona yet again this year. I'm going to say it. The Lions finally break that Arizona losing streak.
Is he talking about the regular season game, or does he knows the Super Bowl?
Right. Well, let's take it one step at a time here.
Super Bowl.
We'll start with the regular season. We'll start there. We'll take it one step at a time. All right. Let's see what the people are saying about the Lions. Bold predictions from the people. Whole wide range. Starting with Sean. Sean says the Lions will take third in the NFC North this year. BV says they will lose like normal, finish 8-8. Joseph, bold prediction: the Lions will trade Sue and their first-round pick, draft Watkins, and end up with the #1 offense, 12-4. Book it. Freddie with kind of a similar sentiment. He says Lions will finish 13-3, and he's calling for Stafford to be league MVP.
And then on the other,
and then on the other end of the spectrum, Rocky simply says, "Same old Lions." Guys,
I think two of those qualified as bold predictions, right?
Yeah.
The other one's 8-8 or third in the NFC. That's a prediction.
We appreciate the input.
Yeah, that's a prediction, and maybe it turns out to be right, but.
How about the draft with the Sammy Watkins talk? Because that's not going to die until we get up to that pick. Is it something that's realistic, John?
I don't know how realistic. I think it's realistic that they'll explore it and try. They're going to have to give up a lot to move up, and I think they have to move up pretty high to get him, because I think there's a few teams there that are now. I mean, some teams. Tampa is now seriously in the receiving market with the trade they made. So I think it's probably going to be too tough to handle.
Those quarterbacks are the big chips that have to fall. So like we were talking about even before we got out here, wherever those guys go, it's going to dictate what happens. And so it's going to be split decision. So I'm sure they're going to have something
But even
ready.
if it's not Watkins, if those quarterbacks do go in that top 10, it's to their benefit, because somebody's going to fall. Somebody that probably shouldn't fall to 10 is going to fall to 10 because some team is desperate for a quarterback.
That's what the Lions are hoping for. And talking to Martin Mayhew in Orlando at the owners' meetings the other week, he said if you would have asked him a month ago, everybody kind of would have agreed that the quarterbacks were going that high, 2, 3, 4 of them. Now, not so sure. Yeah. So. It really, like John said, how high those guys are going to go is going to determine what sort of prospect is going to fall to the Lions, whether it's a guy like Mike Evans or Anthony
and how
Barr,
desperate are some of those teams in their front offices to get a quarterback to buy themselves some time. That's a lot of what happens, as teams. Well, if we get a new quarterback, then we've all got, a free pass, sort of. But are they qualified?
I'd go get Watkins if he fell.
I would too.
He doesn't have to fall too far.
Without a doubt. You watch a minute of that guy on tape, and he's worth trading up for.
If he's there after the first 3-4 picks, and they tried with Patrick
Yeah,
Peterson,
they did.
and I still think they probably regret that,
Yeah.
not doing it. And, not that it takes two to make a deal, but nonetheless, they got to try.
Yeah,
I will say this is maybe the first year.
And I beat Matt Derry to that.
yeah?
You see, I said it on this air. I said, before he started his movement, just so you know.
All right.
I
Matt's
said,
out
go
in
get
New
him.
York right now.
So get him. Yeah.
You want to send him a message? Get the camera ready. Get the camera ready.
There we
Send
go.
Matt a message. Where's he at? You tell him.
Derry, quit jumping on my bandwagon. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, Matt. Want you
Neo's
coming back
leading the
strong
pack.
next time, Matt.
I will say, even with the whole Watkins push, and I agree, if he's there, you go get him. This is the first time in a long time where there are good enough players that the best player available is an answer.
Right.
As someone who grew up here watching the Lions, I'd be satisfied with. And I never say that, ever.
I think Clowney, I think Watkins, Robinson, Matthews, Mack, I think those are the top 5 prospects above all the quarterbacks. If those 5 are going to go for sure, some of those quarterbacks, that's going to determine who else slides down to 10 if the Lions can't make a move up.
Right. And you're right. They have holes still. They have multiple holes to fill. And so somebody, whether it's Anthony Barr, whoever it is that's going to fall,
Should get a player at 10.
It's going to be a player who starts and fills a need for him right away.
All right, we got one more bold prediction. Can you guys pull this up on the iPad? I don't approve of this. Retweets are not approvals. Can you get it up? There it is. Matthew Stafford will weigh in at 300 pounds for the start of training camp. That is bad.
Wow.
That is bad. It's Sunday morning.
I'm going to say
one
that is not
engagement photo
happening.
at the ice cream shop, and everybody's on his case now. It's
Congratulations to
terrible.
Kelly and
Yeah,
Matthew on their
seriously.
engagement. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Good girl, great guy.
Yeah, and they're a fun couple.
Good
Yeah.
for them. Great to see him. 13-3, we'll take it though, Matthew.
Yeah,
That's important. All right, well, our guy Jeremy Johnson went out on the streets this week. He's always duping people, trying to trick them. This week he sat back, went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and just said, hey, how do you enjoy getting ready for the big game? And then once you're there, how much food do you inhale? This is Jeremy with the people.
Okay, thanks a lot. So with the NCAA Tournament being one roller coaster of a ride, we decided to go out and check with people and see how they like to watch big games like the Final Four and also get their predictions for the national championship. Let's go.
When it's game day, it got to be loud, it has to be rowdy.
On game day, I really just like to turn the TV on, shut everything out, turn my computer off, and don't do any homework and just watch the game.
It has to be very motivating. We have to have a lot of energy.
On game day, I like my home to be filled with food, drinks, and a few fun people.
Depending on who's playing, sometimes I have to separate myself from the rest of the house and watch in private.
Come to the door, touch the knob, and burn your hands. The energy has to be hot, heavy, it has to be going.
What's one of your pet peeves while watching the game?
People talking to me. I think I just like looking at the TV or at my computer.
I hate when people ask me if I want a beer because you already know I do, so don't ask me, just go ahead and get it for me.
I hate people who root against the team I'm rooting for.
My friend does not allow me to talk while the game is on. I'm only allowed to talk during commercials.
The commercials, oh my gosh, the commercials really irk me.
I don't like it when someone wants to change the channels during commercials. I like to be in the zone the whole entire time. I don't want to miss anything when they come back live to the game.
I think it's just exciting because so many teams from different parts of the country are in it, and there's so many upsets that you wouldn't expect.
It's unpredictable. I mean, look at the brackets. Nobody has a perfect bracket. I'm pretty sure I'm one of the million of people who cried.
We like all different kinds of sports, but I think March Madness is a time for families to fight.
It's just been around for years. Everybody's into college basketball. To me, it's a little more fun than NBA because the guys are younger. They got more speed, more moves, more enthusiasm.
I remember watching with my dad. I was a little kid watching Michigan, North Carolina, infamous Weber timeout. That still haunts me.
From downtown Detroit, Jeremy Johnson, 7 Sports Cave.
I'll let you call it. That was nice of who to join us.
That was Delman Young, wasn't it?
He's falling far, man.
The other guy had me fired up, too.
Yeah, right?
Don't touch the handle.
Yeah, don't
it's going to be
touch
hot.
the-
Don't ask me if I want a beer. You don't need to ask. All right, we're going to move over to our bar because we're going into our Fast Five segment after the break. We're going to be asking 5 questions real fast. These guys are going to answer them. Big topics like, well, you'll see after the break. This is the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Stick with us.
The Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave.
Michigan and Michigan State were oh so close to reaching the Final Four, but yet, John, here we are, not in Dallas, but with Dave in the Sports Cave. We're so happy to
Aren't
be
you
here. by
happy?
the way.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year there was a sequence when I was in the Final Four. Floyd Mayweather walked past me. I walked into an elevator with Will Ferrell, and then Andy Katz and some of his ESPN colleagues were just talking. I'm like, oh, this is the Final
How
Four.
lucky were they? How lucky was
they were
Will
all
Ferrell?
like, God, did you see Brad?
They all
Gallagher
tweeted about
just
it.
walked past me.
I know. Those are the stories people could have told had Michigan and Michigan State been there. But now we're sitting here at our bar talking about who's going to stay and who's going to go. And with Michigan and Michigan State, the list is long. Brandon Dawson, Gary Harris, Mitch McGarry, Nick Stauskas, and Glenn Robinson III. I'll start with you, John. Who stays and who goes?
I think they all go. Wow. Honestly,
every single one of them.
It wouldn't surprise me in the least if they all go, and I think I can't argue with any other decisions to go because I think they all have their own reasons. You go now; most of them are likely first round picks, and that's the threshold you need.
Even Dawson?
Even Dawson, I think, is borderline. But you watched him in the tournament, you saw the NBA body and the NBA athleticism, and there's going to be a team that looks at him and says, "We can teach him what he doesn't have yet." I think.
Very good athlete. No, you might be right about Dawson. I think at the end of the day, I think Stauskas goes. He's a first-round pick. Gary Harris goes. He's a first-round pick. Robinson goes. McGarry, I'm not sure. If I was McGarry, I would stay in school. I think it's probably, he didn't get the chance to play this year. I think he can rebuild his draft stock by coming back for another season. I think it's wise for him to stick around. Dawson, he does have the kid thing going on, so he might leave, but I think Tom Izzo will do a good job convincing him. I think Brandon Dawson is going to stay at the end of the day. The Spartans are going to keep him around, but they're going to lose Gary Harris.
It's interesting what Michigan did this past year, losing Trey Burke and Tim Hardaway Jr., and then having Mitch McGarry on the bench. We can talk about a completely different college basketball landscape here if all those guys go and what happens to these two teams. It'll be very interesting to see, but it'll be a fun draft to watch, I guess.
Well, that's the game now.
It is, you're right. I mean, look at Kentucky, and that's a great segue into our second question. This is the Fab Five Part 2 against UConn, a team that has some guys that have won a ring before, so the national title game is set. Who's your pick for tomorrow night?
Man, UConn, watching them play, that backcourt is really good. They've been playing really good defense. But how can you go against Kentucky at this point? You mentioned it, the Fab Five effect again. They got 5 really talented freshmen. They're the most talented team in the NCAA tournament, have been since the start of it because of those 5 freshmen that really seem to be coming of age. I was watching the game yesterday, the Harrison twins. I kept thinking to myself, maybe they're not quite as good as I thought they were. Young was having a big game, and then Harrison hits that big shot at the end of the game. And how can you go wrong, right?
Baby.
3 straight games for him. Wow. Kentucky's going to win this one. I think it's going to be a close one, but Kentucky's a better team.
Yeah, and every game has been close for Kentucky, so it goes without saying that it's going to be a close one with Kentucky. But I'm going to go with Kentucky, too. They have shown not only are they talented, we all knew they were talented, but they are clutch, too. And they don't get scared. They're not freshmen. They play like guys who've been around the block, and I guess they have now. The last 4 games, they've proven that they can win in the tournament, and I think they will win it with that talent. And inside.
Should have mentioned this, too. They have a lottery pick. I'm not sure that UConn does, and I don't think Shabazz is a lottery pick. And you need those players to win in the NCAA tournament.
You do now. And by the way, lay it down now. We all got our pick wrong for the tournament as well. I think you picked Duke, didn't you?
You know what? This is all about making me regret some of my picks from a couple weeks ago, right?
Welcome to the Regret Sports Cave.
So don't take anything I say for
nothing. Everything he says is just garbage.
I was on the Jabari Parker bandwagon.
You're the freshman. You just got the wrong freshman.
That's true. That is true. Well, this is not the year of the Tiger. The Masters will be without Tiger Woods for the first time in seemingly forever. And when you go through his top 10 finishes in his career, we all expect him to win. But his career is impressive. He's not going to be there. The attention is going to be on the rest of the field. My pick is Phil Mickelson because if Tiger's not there, I go with the next big name, and he's fun to watch on Sunday. Who's your pick for the Masters?
Rory, the next Tiger, or the closest thing we'll get to the next Tiger here for a little while, I think. He's played there, played well there. He knows the course. He's had some awful weekends. I think he's been there enough times now that he's going to get over that hump with the weekend. He's got the most talent in the field, and I think he'll put it together this week.
Oh, I think John's, look, if you were looking for a Vegas favorite, Rory would have to be the guy. He's a great young golfer, but I'm going to go with Dustin Johnson. I just think it's the right thing at this time. Look, he's played in 6 tournaments this year. He's got 5 top 10 finishes. He's ranked 10th in the world right now. And the other thing, I come with stats. Paulina Gretzky, that's the other thing. You may not want to hear that, but let's hear this. She was on Golf Digest, on the cover of Golf Digest this week, and there's a little mini controversy raging, not among guys, I don't think, but among some of the female golfers that didn't like her on there. I just think things play out like this. When CBS needs a picture of somebody in the gallery, it's going to be her that they can cut to.
I don't think anyone's going to argue with
that. Right? I think Dustin Johnson, this is going to be his tournament. He's going to win the Masters. Look at that. Look at this guy.
Who'd you pick to win the Masters? What were you talking about?
I think he picked Wayne Gretzky to win the Masters. I'm not sure.
So yesterday was Michigan spring game.
You like that one? I
You
just
were
gave you
there.
a chance to look. Yeah.
Would you talk about what?
to look up. Yeah, you don't
About
want
who?
to. Yeah. Don't
We'll
tell
get to
your
Michigan
fiancé.
spring game in a minute, but first what I want to talk about is something that none of us have really talked about in the past. In a good way. This week in a bad way. I think people that have never talked about gangs in a way they never expected to.
Some of them shouldn't have been talking about gangs.
Very true. Deshaun Jackson leaves the Philadelphia Eagles. They kick him out of Philly. Signs with the Washington Redskins. Dave, your overall thoughts. You cover the sport day in, day out. Was it as fishy a situation as it seemed?
Well, I think Deshaun, obviously, he's got some issues in the locker room. I think that's what it's all about, not necessarily his gang ties there or alleged gang ties. I think that was just a reason that gave the Eagles a reason to cut ties with him. But if I was Washington, why not take a shot on him? They paid him a lot of money. I realize that he's going to be there for the next 2 years, but they need some playmakers. They're trying to build a team around RG3. Deshaun Jackson's a pretty good player, and he's coming off a really good year. If I'm Washington, I understand why they took it. I think it's a good risk for them to take.
Yeah, I think it's well, it could blow up in their face, though. That's not exactly a locker room with a strong leadership built in. But yeah, it was a flimsy story that sort of led to this whole controversy, and then immediately torpedoed any chance they had to trade Deshaun Jackson, I think. And that's what led to it. But I think it was Chip Kelly asserting his leadership and saying, this is my team. If you're not going to play by my rules, you're not going to play on my team. And I think that's what it boils down to. And I don't have a problem with him doing that, but he better go find somebody who can take the top off a defense like Deshaun Jackson can.
Was this ever a realistic opportunity for the Lions?
For the Lions, no. They just, they've gone down the road the last couple of years of having a strong locker room, and Deshaun wouldn't fit with that A and B. He makes too much money.
Jim Caldwell coming in. That's not the kind of guy you go look for. Hey, let's start a new era of Lions
Steel
football.
wrapped in velvet.
And it's got nothing to do with whether he wears blue or red or anything like that. Let's just drop that whole discussion.
Never talking about. Okay, good. Yeah. Because I don't. Yeah. Good. Done. Okay, so Michigan spring game. You were there yesterday. I watched. We have some tape of the highlight of Michigan's football scrimmage. It had nothing to do with the players on the field. So they had a bunch of old legends in the house, and Charles Woodson was one of them. I captured this moment when he picks off Devin Gardner, but he said he was on offense and spikes it in. So, again, this was the highlight of the scrimmage, and my question, is this going to be the highlight of Michigan's football season? Because when he strikes the pose for the Heisman at the end of that clip, which you can find on WXYZ.com, everyone goes nuts. Yeah. Is that the best part of Michigan football this season?
That was the best part of the spring game. Like you said, I was there. I took my 7-year-old Sam, and he, as he put it afterwards, he said, they don't block very well, do they? And no, they don't. They don't block anybody yesterday, and they were trying to block themselves, which probably is even more of an indictment. Young is an excuse, and it's getting to be a tired excuse, as some people have written even today. But it's troubling if you're a Michigan fan, because right now the offensive line is still a huge issue.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't think Michigan is going to be in the national championship hunt by any means, but I do think they're going to have a better year than a lot of people give them credit for. Devin Gardner, he's going to be healthy. I think he'll play okay next year. He'll have many more highlights than that Charles Woodson throwing the Heisman. So.
Early buzzer sounded there.
Yeah,
I took
that
a
was.
little bit of your time
right,
there. Sorry about that. Mike, get the buzzer fixed in there. Let's go.
Save me from being wrong about
I will say
something
this,
else.
Freddie Canteen was the star to me
Yeah.
of that game yesterday. That was kind of a nice bright spot, I think, if you're a Michigan fan. He
Young
looks
wide
like
receiver.
He's got some talent there.
All right. Plenty of talent, plenty of young talent on the Red Wings lineup right now, provided by Gustav Nyquist. We're going to be talking about him, and David Solano goes one-on-one with the Red Wings' hot scorer when we return on the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave.
Pull up that picture.
We are back, Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. We're talking about Gustav, apparently just Gus. Gus Nyquist. Goose.
Get
The
on the
Goose
bus,
was set
Gus.
loose this week, but he's been set loose throughout the past season. Earlier this year, not with the roster, Daniel Cleary, Michael Samuelson here. A lot of people disagree with that, including the three of us here on this set. I think I'm speaking for you too. I know John said it earlier.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah,
All right,
take
good.
me on
Thanks.
that one, yeah.
I want you to be right for once.
I know,
I'm
right?
kidding. Dave's great. He's a good guy. And so is the Goose. And David Solano talked with the hottest scorer in Red Wings history in the past 20 years.
The Wings are still in the playoff picture, thanks in large part to Gustav Nyquist, who's established a reputation as the NHL's hottest scorer.
I don't try to think about it too much. All I care about, we got to find a way to win some games here and get into the playoffs so we can get some of the bodies back.
Nyquist is scheduled to end the season as the Wings' leading scorer.
He told me I would have scored this amount of goals. I probably wouldn't have thought that I would.
Wings head coach Mike Babcock says he's not surprised to see what Nyquist is doing.
He's got great hockey IQ off the charts. He's a competitive kid. He's smart about how he goes about his business. You know, he's been a real important player for us. Obviously, you need goals to win.
I caught up with Wings goalie Jimmy Howard to get his thoughts on how Nyquist has progressed this season. And like everybody else in Hockeytown, Howard is also very impressed. But Howard mentioned to me that we're still yet to see the best from Nyquist.
Still got a lot to learn, and you know, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg for him.
When you're confident, you tend to play better with the puck and make better decisions, and I think that's what has happened to all of us young guys.
At the Joe, David Solano, 7 Action Sports.
Thank you, David. Good stuff. Goose is one of those guys who's fun to talk to because he shies away from all the attention, and as you see here, the Wings have to be in the center of it all, leading the wild card standings, up 3 points on Columbus, New Jersey, Toronto, Washington, all hanging in there. But the Wings are in the driver's seat, and they did that with good play, led by this guy. Yeah. And it is a travesty that he wasn't on the roster. You talked about it earlier at the beginning of the season.
It's this whole thing. I mean, they've always sort of, they talk about over-ripening their young talent in Grand Rapids. And that was a luxury they had back in the day when they had a lineup full of Hall of Famers, but they haven't had that in a while, and yet they've still left these guys there not wanting to bring them up too early. Well, you ruin their confidence. That's the flip side is you build their confidence. If you give him real minutes and give him a chance to do what he's doing now. Obviously, he came up last year and didn't do this, but you could see the talent was there, and he is a smart player. And once you get on a roll like this, I mean, there's no stopping him right now. It's unbelievable what he's doing, but it's what he's capable of.
That goal that he had the other day where he picked it up in the middle of the line change and just
Chara, the 6'100", is standing there right next to him when he blows by him.
No, that was something special, and you don't see that yet. Just that sort of speed and skill and the move that he made. And look, I think Jimmy Howard's point was the best one, that the best is still ahead of this guy. He hasn't even played a full season here, and to score the way that he's scoring, do what he's doing, I think the Red Wings have something special on their hands with him.
It was written earlier this week, and it's a point you also made, and I think we all just kind of feel this was a much-needed team hunting for a young superstar. Because Zetterberg's there, Datsuk's there, but they don't drive the excitement like those guys used to. And this is a new breed of fans that my brother's in college. All they do is play NHL video games. People love it. They eat it up. But they watch and they play with the superstars like Kane, like Taves, like Crosby, like Malkin, this younger generation, and now the Wings have a couple guys that they've craved and needed for so long.
And they knew they weren't going to be able to. I mean, they knew that they weren't going to be able to draft in the top 10 the way they were, making the playoffs every year. So they were going to have a guy who came from out of nowhere, so to speak, with it, like this guy did. But the problem is they were missing on all these free agents year after year. Ryan Suter year with Zach Parise. They knew they needed to find one, and those guys are just getting re-signed with their own team. So they had to have it homegrown, as it turns out, and they found one, in their backyard.
Give Ken Holland credit for bringing these guys up through the system and maybe not bringing them in at the right point.
Don't give them too much credit in this case. That's my issue right now.
I will give Mike Babcock credit for putting together basically a lineup of Grand Rapids Griffins.
For holding it together.
And making a playoff push.
Playoff contender out of it. Yeah,
Are they going to make it, Dave?
Again, you see, you just like to give it. Yes, they're going to make it this time. Red Wings.
That's the jinx right there, right?
Yeah, right. The Burkett jinx.
I know. They're in this time.
Your Lions stuff is great. It's better than everybody's out there. Sorry. All right, after the break, we're going to talk about the Pistons, and they are just so great. Put into perspective something crazy that happened last night just to show you how crazy, terrible this season this has been for the Pistons. What is it? Weigh in with us. #7SportsCave. What do the Pistons have to do this offseason? We're going to talk about that.
What don't they have?
And much more when we come back after the break. Detroit basketball. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. It's been a rough year, and to put things into perspective, the Charlotte Bobcats were 21-61 last year. Abysmal. Terrible. Last night, they clinched the 7th seed and at least a playoff spot in the NBA playoffs. One game over 500. Just how bad are the Pistons? The answers continue to unfold. We all know basically Joe Dumars' time in Detroit is done. There were rumors even this week that he was going to resign.
Right.
It would turn out to be an April Fool's hoax, but we're not far behind this news. It's going to come soon. Put your Tom Gores hat on, gentlemen. What do the Pistons do this season, this offseason, to try to right this ship?
Well, it sure seems that way, that Joe's time in Detroit is done. And look, the most important thing is getting a top 8 pick, and I know they don't have a ton of control over that. They won yesterday. That's probably
not a good idea.
Not going to help matters. They're still in the 8, but you think that if the NBA rigs the lottery the way they sometimes do, the Lakers are going to get one of those top 3 picks or whatever. So, look, if the Pistons get a top 8 pick, you got to make that one count. I don't think there's easy answers out there for this team right now because it's not like it's a great free agent class. It's not like the Pistons are a destination for some of these guys. So you really need to start hitting on your draft picks, and you really need to. I think you need to retain talent. I think they're going to have to re-sign Greg Monroe this offseason.
Well, and the best chance maybe to trade him has passed already. Maybe you don't know, but yeah, I think the biggest thing they have to do is come up with a plan, a real plan, and the plan can't be we need to make the playoffs this year because that's kind of what got them into this most recent mess. I mean, obviously it's been a growing problem over 6 years here, but yeah, they don't making the playoffs. That mandate is kind of what got them into okay, we're going to draft this guy instead of this guy. We're going to sign these guys who don't necessarily fit, but it's talent, so we'll and so I don't know. Can you trade? Can you get rid of Josh Smith's contract?
It's a tough one.
It's almost impossible. Maybe I don't know. Maybe trade it for another bad contract that's a little shorter term and
different position.
Because they are going to have cap room. They're going to have some cap room whether or not they trade Monroe.
Right.
Or re-sign Monroe. I mean,
hockey and basketball are two very different sports. The structure of the leagues are very different, but the way the Wings we just talked about have developed young talent, that's what the Pistons should have been doing, but then they took this monster step, maybe seeing how open the East was in bringing Smith and bringing Jennings in, but all of a sudden it's taken them 3 steps backwards. Right. You have Drummond there as a chip that people will go to see. Now you have to see with this draft class, if you get that lottery pick, who's a guy you can invest in that will bring people to the Palace.
They need a wing player too.
Well, they need an
an
athletic wing. They need some shooters because if you're building this team around Andre Drummond, you need shooters around him. I mean, it's almost like Dwight Howard when he was with Orlando or in LA or now in Houston. Surround that amazing beast of a young player with athleticism, with shooters, and they did the opposite of that this year, frankly. So, but it all comes back to then. Who's calling the shot? Who is Tom Gorse, who doesn't really know anything about basketball, and that is obvious, and his team.
and Dumars is gone.
Who is he handing the reins to? Who is he putting in charge of this? Is it Isaiah Thomas? I mean, if that's it, then I give up.
To me. No, I'm with you there. Look, I think 2 things. I think I mentioned the free agent class, but there's not a lot of options in free agency right now. There's Evan Turner. Greg Monroe is going to be one of the top free agents. Even if the Miami guys opt out of their deals, they're not coming to Detroit. Carmelo Anthony, you're not going to go down that road. The other name I want to throw out there, I don't know if John's going to like this or not, but the mayor, Fred Hoiberg. If you're looking for a coach,
if
you're looking for a coach,
leave my Cyclones alone.
The guy can coach. He's a young guy. He's played in the league. I think he's a really good coach. I think that's somebody.
And that gets into then, I mean, obviously,
the coach will be an interesting debate.
The coach will be it's going to depend, how much control. Because that was one issue too with getting coaches in here was Joe wasn't really going to give up any control in terms of personnel, and so you're going to get guys who are. Maybe mediocre coaches. So
let's put that question out to the people. What kind of coach do you want to see as the next guy in charge of the Pistons? You want a college guy? You want a pro guy, an assistant guy?
It's not Tom Izzo either. No,
it won't be. Weigh in. #7SportsCave. We're coming back, putting your tweets on the air. What kind of coach do you want with the Pistons? This is the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. We've been reading your tweets throughout the entire show, puts them on TV. We're talking Pistons in this headache of a season that's only got 4 games left, but then the real fun begins, the off season. And our man Mike Foss is in the control room checking out what you're saying so we can respond and hear what these guys have to say about it.
That's right, guys. Yeah, we were just talking about what would you want to see in the next Pistons head coach. Let's see what the people are saying on Twitter. First up is Isaac. He says, I like the team, but defensive consistency is a big problem. Need a coach with good defensive mind and play the bench more. Look at the Boston game. Steven says, keep Monroe, trade Smith, fire Dumars, draft a small forward, and, of course, hire a good coach. After that, we can make the playoffs. I think that pretty much covers everything. And Joseph says, we need a leader as a coach, someone with experience and who will get in your face and tell you when you're wrong. Bill Lambier.
Don't even finish it. No.
Guys.
That's
you
not
knew
happening.
that one was coming.
Yeah, it's standard. Do you go and find a guy that's established, an assistant? What's an ideal candidate for you, John?
Somebody like I think Isaac's right, except for the part about consistency. They've been consistently awful defensively. They haven't had a sense of defense yet. But yeah, go find the next great head coach. You don't have to find
John Kuster's waiting.
No, see, but you knew what he was when you got him in here, and that's the thing. They've brought in some of these guys that were just sort of pushovers in that regard. And now Lawrence Frank guys aren't going to listen to him. But the opposite of that is Maurice Cheeks. They're not going to respect a guy who doesn't have the X's and O's.
Doesn't have to be a retread, but I do think they need some energy, because part of the whole process is getting the fan base reinvigorated too, and getting everything right out in Auburn Hills. And I think if you have a good coach, somebody who can get that young talent playing a little bit, I think they could do that.
We got 30 seconds. Either the Van Gundy brothers, even a possibility? I mean, Jeff's not going to come out to do this.
No, he's on record as saying what a disaster he thinks this team is already too. I think. Yeah. I love Stan Van Gundy. That would be great for us.
I think Stan Van Gundy would be great.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's.
I'm still on the mayor bandwagon here. We're going to get him out of Iowa State.
Yeah.
And,
No, he might end. I mean, Minnesota is another team that's going to maybe be looking. Flip Saunders obviously has ties to Fred Hoiberg, but I think that might be, if he were to go somewhere, where he'd end up. But yeah, it's going to be it all starts though. Who's running the show? Who's calling the shots?
It'll be fun. It'll be very, I don't know if exciting is the word, but it'll be interesting. Okay, so each week we get a play of the week from our friends at State Champs. This one's a trap. I went to Brother Rice, so Dave, you read the script.
Sterling Heights Stevenson at Brother Rice baseball on Monday. Sterling Heights Stevenson senior Ryan McCauley sends this one deep over the left field wall. In the top of the 7th for a 2-run homer. The Titans went on to beat Brad Galley's Brother Rice team 6-1.
Thanks a lot, Jonathan Kidd, who sent us the play. Real cool, man.
That ball would have stayed in a lot of parts.
April showers bring tears. Thanks. Welcome back. We went through your tweets. These guys weighed in. I weighed in. We all responded. It was a big party here on the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. But this is the point in the show where we sit back and share our thoughts of what we've been chewing on throughout the week. So first up, Mr. Dave Burkett. Go, my friend.
My wife said to keep these on. So I'm not much of a golfer, as John here knows well. I almost killed him with an errant shot when we played in the tournament together last year. But I've never been more than a casual fan of the sport either. I covered an occasional Buick Open back in the day and maybe tuned in for the final few hours of a major on a lazy Sunday afternoon. But I did stop for a minute this week when I heard that Tiger Woods was going to miss the Masters for the first time in 20 years. Like him or not, Woods transcended the sport for a lot of people like me. The things he could do on a golf course were special, and his pursuit of Jack Nicklaus's record 18 majors was hard to ignore. Woods is no longer the dominant force in golf, and his fall from grace has nothing to do with tabloids, headlines, or Perkins waitresses. As with all athletes, both the professional kind and us weekend warriors, Father Time did him in. It seems unlikely Tiger will break Jack's record now. He has 14 majors, but none since 2008. He turns 39 in December. He's out at least the next few months with back surgery, and only 2 golfers in history have won 4 major titles after their 38th birthday, Nicklaus and Ben Hogan. Tiger did win 5 tournaments last year, and at some point he's bound to win a major again. When he does, he'll remind us all how invincible we used to feel.
Maybe waiting a while. Good thought.
I still think there's an outside chance he could get it, but
I do too.
Yeah. We're supposed to hate them. We're supposed to really hate their coach. Together, they're the poster children for the rule that's ruining their sport, right? Well, maybe we should just forget all that one-and-done nonsense or succeed and proceed, as John Calipari likes to call it, and enjoy for what it is. It's entertainment. Because here's the worst thing I can say about Coach Cal and his kitty cats from Kentucky. They're going to leave us wanting more. That all-freshman lineup has played 4 of the best games in this NCAA tournament. Wild comebacks, crazy finishes, clutch shots. For all the criticism they've gotten, I'd say they've given everyone their money's worth, wouldn't you? Go ahead and hate the rule. One and done is dumb and dumber. I've said that all along. But these here today, gone tomorrow stars for Kentucky aren't the problem, and they're the only thing that's going to ruin this college hoop season. And one of the best tournaments I can remember is that it has to end.
It has been exciting. Well, earlier this week, radio host and former NFL quarterback Boomer Esiason was one of many who loudly criticized Mets second baseman Daniel Murphy for missing 2 games. Murphy took paternity leave to be with his wife for the birth of the couple's first child. This argument seems to rear its head into the sports world a few times a year with a big, bold opinion, usually followed up by an apology. Esiason said Murphy's wife should have had scheduled an earlier C-section so he could have played on opening day. Not only would that have endangered the health of his wife and his child, it shows the problem with this argument through and through. So often we get caught up in thinking sports, sports, sports. And yes, it's Murphy's job to play baseball. Yes, he gets paid a lot of money. But the 3-day paternity leave is an actual clause in the baseball collective bargaining agreement for a reason. So before we go try to stir a crowd with a message or send a tweet looking to get a bunch of retweets, think first, for once, of walking in the shoes of an actual human being you're talking about. Money, job, star power, it all comes second to life and having a child. Murphy returned to the Mets lineup, and no surprise, Esiason apologized. Because in sports, sometimes it takes a loud mistake to remind us of what's most important.
Agree with that 100%.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Got to go family first.
Let's keep Boomer Esiason off the Supreme Court. That's all I have to say.
That was
Seriously.
interesting. And he kept going and going and going.
Yeah. And the apology seemed sincere, but it's.
I know he's got a couple kids at home. They always come first. My wife's pregnant with our second right now. So three. I'm sorry, a couple, a few.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So no, you got to family first, no matter what your lot.
We had the same
is.
thing with Torrey Hunter last summer with his kid's graduation. And I didn't have a problem with that either.
Not at all.
It's family first.
It's one game for a
one
big
game.
monument.
This
all right.
Yeah.
Biggest things you're looking forward to this week? Obviously the championship game.
Yeah, tomorrow night's game. But the Lions is a big deal. It's the first chance to see this new staff, and I think that's important to see just kind of how they're going to be.
And I think we should get to talk to Matthew Stafford finally. First time this offseason, like John said earlier, it's been a lot about him. It's been all about Matt Stafford this offseason. Finally, he gets to tell us what he's learned from this whole process, and maybe we get to see a little bit of insight into who he is and what he can learn from the new coaching staff.
All right, we'll keep an eye on all of that as we go forward. Obviously, you can follow along with all of us. John Neo's on Twitter, so is Dave Burkett. You can read him in the Detroit News, Dave in the Detroit Free Press. I work over here at Channel 7. You can follow all of us on Twitter. We're here every Sunday on the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. Your interaction helps drive this show, so throughout the week, throw us some questions. Use that hashtag 7SportsCave. Follow us on WXYZ.com and watch us right here on Channel 7 every Sunday and throughout the week. Thanks for making this the place to start your Sunday sports week. Have a good one, everybody.